Hope everybody's doing well. And we were just talking about how it's very important to be on time and punctual. And that would be the case here and with career fairs. And that's going to be some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today as well. But I do still see people kind of coming in. Just give like 10 more seconds, I think. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and I want to make sure that we are recording this. This will be recorded. Eric, if you can hear me, if you wouldn't mind just starting that up, that would be great. So anyway, so welcome everybody. This is how to optimize your career fair experience. I'm so happy that y'all could join us. I think this is going to be a really great experience for y'all. I think it's a good way to kind of come up with a strategy and kind of, as it says, optimize your career fair experience. So first of all, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Erin Bush. I'm a career engagement specialist here at UC Santa Cruz. I will be moderating today's panel. I'm so delighted and thrilled to introduce this lovely panel to y'all. We have Bobby Gallenstein from FAST Enterprises, Judd Morse from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and then Michael Riepe from Achronix Semiconductor Corporation. So with that, I'm just going to give everybody just a quick chance to introduce yourself. So we'll kind of go down the list. We'll start with Bobby, then maybe you can popcorn over to Judd, and then we'll finish up with Michael, and then I'll get us kind of started with just a couple of like housekeeping items and tips before we start with the discussion. So with that, Bobby, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Bobby. I'm on the recruiting team at FAST Enterprises. We're a software consulting company. I've been with FAST for about 5 years, and I'm based out of Colorado. And I will also be representing the company at the Fall Technology Career Fair on Wednesday. So happy to be here. And I will pass it over to Judd.
Hi, everyone. My name is Judd Morse. I'm a network security engineer over at Lawrence Livermore. I have just wrapped up my first year at the lab, so I'm working on year 2 now, and I'm also the lead recruiter for UC Santa Cruz. So I will be seeing you guys on Wednesday and look forward to meeting a lot of new people. Take it away, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Judd. My name is Mike Riepe. I graduated from UCSC in 1991 from computer engineering, so I'm an alum. Then I went and got a PhD in electrical engineering at the University of Michigan and moved back here. I work for a chip design company named Achronix. I've actually been there for 17 years, but we're fairly small. We're about 200 people. My software team is about 20 people. And I'd say we used to just hire like PhDs and master's students, but about 5 years ago, I started figuring out how to hire undergrads and interns. And so we've probably hired 10 interns since then. So I'm looking forward to telling you some of the things that I've learned while doing that.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. So as I mentioned before we get started, I'm just going to mention a couple of things, like, obviously why to attend a career fair, and then share a couple of tips as well. I also want to say that there will be Q&A. We're going to actually ask we'll do that at the end. So feel free to ask questions. We won't be answering them right away, but do leave questions in the chat or in the Q&A section, and we'll be sure to open it up at the end of the panel to discuss those questions as well. But first, so just let's talk about why attend a career fair. I mean, I think the most obvious reason is it's a great way to meet one-on-one with recruiters and employers, people that are hiring. They come to the career fair because they want to know, they want to see the talent that UC Santa Cruz has, or wherever it is that they're going to be presenting or they're going to be recruiting. So it's a great opportunity for you to talk with recruiters and kind of find out what the job or internship would entail. And it's a great way to practice your networking skills. So networking is so critical. It's not just something that's used early on. I mean, we network throughout our whole career. I think the panel will agree that networking is something that we do all the time. It helps us develop on our career. It helps us find new opportunities. And it also just helps us kind of better the industry that we're working in. So practicing your networking skills is essential. And it's one of those things that it's not easy. It doesn't come, I mean, to some people it comes naturally, but everybody, it takes a little bit of practice. And so this is a career fair is probably one of the best ways to fine-tune those networking skills, or to establish those networking skills, and then to eventually fine-tune them. It also can be a place where you can get your resume reviewed. Now, I say this cautiously because I don't want you to go to the recruiter and say, can you review my resume and let me know like what, what's good and what's not. But you can kind of get an idea of like if you're on the right track with your resume. And I think, and again, like maybe the panelists can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just simple, like, does everything look okay with my resume? I don't think that that's necessarily wrong to ask. You are a college student. You can use that college student, I'm a college student card, because you can do that now. And so you can kind of ask like, yeah, like, does this resume look okay? I mean, don't expect to get like a full-on resume review, but it's a way to kind of understand if you're kind of on the right track. So those are kind of just the basic, reasons why to attend a career fair. There's many other reasons as well. And panelists, do you have anything to say or anything to share about that?
I'd say for the sorry, Michael, for the resume kind of part of it. So yes, make sure you have enough resumes printed out, make sure you're ready to talk about your resume. And when, especially at career fairs, at least for myself, and I know a lot of people that will be there, we really just want to make sure that it kind of hits everything we also need it to hit. And if you want tips on other industries, and if you have a certain skill set that you want to highlight, those are likely going to be things that need to be on resumes. And so I totally agree. Like, don't come up and necessarily ask us to like write edits on your resume, but make sure you have enough printed and that all of the skill sets that you feel comfortable with are listed.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll just say it, maybe I'm unusual, but I'm perfectly happy to review a resume. It's one of the advantages of meeting us in person rather than just submitting online, is that if I'm asked, I'll give you a few pointers, and it gives you one extra chance to get some feedback before you hit that submit button.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. I had a chance to participate in a virtual cyber fair not too long ago, and was able to work with a student that got to see his resume, but really needed some cleanup and some work. But we were able to kind of constructively work together and really make something special with it. So definitely do bring those resumes and let us take a look at them.
Great. Thank you so much. And just be mindful of time too. Like you'll notice that like as you're there at the career fair, it's gonna be busy. So just be mindful of the recruiter's time, but you heard it, like a lot of people are willing to kind of just take a look at that. So anyway, those are some of the reasons why to attend a career fair. Come join us and see for yourself of like some of the good reasons too. But anyway, moving on to tips. Like I said, I have 3 tips that I'm going to share. So first tip is, and it starts with this, right? Is you're going to look at the employers that are going to be there. And the first thing you're going to want to do is to research these employers. So ways that you can do that, most obvious, it would be to like visit their website, right? So you go to their website, kind of find out a little bit more about the company. You can find out about like products that they, like what does the company offer? Like who is this company? Like who do they serve? You can kind of find out about company culture. You can kind of get an idea of what the company's like by just looking at browsing their website and just kind of checking them out. You can also look at the different jobs. I would absolutely recommend going to the career page that they have. Like most companies will have a career page. The other great place or resource for researching employers is LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn, people think of it as a networking site or a job search site, and absolutely it is, but it's also a great site for researching employers. So what you can do is like, if you just go to the search bar in LinkedIn, put in the company, go to their LinkedIn page, you can actually find out about that company. You can actually find like a shortcut to their website. Oftentimes it will take you straight to the careers page. Sometimes it'll take you to their main website, but that's, you can kind of find out about the company that way. But you can also find out like a little bit more about the company culture, because they'll have like sections on, they'll have like their postings, the things that they post. So a lot of times you can kind of find out like what's important to these companies, because they're going to be posting about these things on LinkedIn. You can also find out about the people that are working there. There's a people tab when you go to their LinkedIn site. And if you click on the people portion, you can see like alumni. Like you can do searches by like all kinds of different things. You can like look at like what people do, where they work. But then if you look at where they studied, you put in UC Santa Cruz, you can see how many alumni are working there. So it's another great way just to kind of get an idea about the employers. And then using their social media sites or looking at their social media sites. That's a good way to kind of find out about the company culture. And then of course, researching the employers, you want to look at the jobs that they are hiring for right now, or the internships that are available. And not just look at the titles, but like actually like investigate, like, so what are the qualifications that they're looking for? What are the duties and the roles that you would have in this position? So getting just acquainted with that is crucial. I think it's a really good first step to the career fair. Anybody else want to chime in on anything? Am I leaving anything out? I see Judd. Yeah.
I'll just mention that a lot of times, this is specific for Lawrence Livermore a lot, but a lot of the jobs that we'll have that are full-time positions, and even some of our internships, they do require a security clearance. We try to be really upfront and really forward on that as to which jobs require a clearance. But definitely do look at that ahead of time, because sometimes, if I forget to ask, I'm just, talking about what a great job and what a position this is. And, we're both getting excited about it. And then suddenly we realize, wait, you may not be a U.S. citizen, so maybe can't get a security clearance. That's something we should probably know beforehand before we, start getting all excited about stuff. And that said, there are a lot of jobs at the lab that don't require a clearance. But if you look at our website beforehand, you'll be able to see which is which.
Great.
Yeah. And I'll say, I'll talk a lot more about this later, but when you're researching us, look at our products. Get to know them and actually ask us questions about it. Sometimes we have to spend half our time telling you about the company. If you already know about the company, saves us a lot of time, and it makes you look very curious, and it helps you stand out from the crowd. That's really key.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you want to do. And that's what we're going to kind of give you tips on how to stand out. Bobby, do you have anything to add?
No, I think I'll add a little bit more for some of those questions later.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so the second tip is to prepare an elevator pitch. And now this is something that only you can do, right? And what an elevator pitch is it's kind of like just a short and sweet synopsis of your career goals and your experiences, and like what you want out of this whole experience. It's as I said, the too long did not read, of like your career goals. So things to think about when you're putting together an elevator pitch is just to really focus on your skills and qualifications that make you unique. Again, it's about standing out. I'm going to share some examples of some elevator pitches, and they're pretty basic. I mean, you might be able to kind of come up with some like more interesting things that for yourself, and it takes some time to reflect, and it takes some time to kind of like put that together. I think it's a critical thing, and I think we'll talk about this a bit as a panel. And kind of, it'll be great to hear from like the panelists to kind of what they're looking for with a elevator pitch. But really just kind of focusing on, again, like on the skills and qualifications, things that are going to make you memorable, and then practice this elevator pitch. Like, you don't want to just kind of have something together that you're going to have last minute. Like, actually, like, say it in the mirror. Like, watch yourself say it. Like, kind of like, you don't want to memorize it. You don't want it to be like where it's like sounds like it's almost scripted, because you want it to kind of speak from the heart. But you want to practice it. So the more that you practice it, the more that you're going to be able to easier say it, easier articulate what your elevator pitch is. So here's some examples. So like, so this first example is for those of you that might be looking for an internship. I'm using Sammy Slug here. So I'm Sammy, and I'm a rising junior and aspiring software engineer with an interest in front-end development. I spent this last summer designing a blog card component as a side project while working a very fast-paced retail job. I'm looking to spend next summer interning at a software firm where I can fine-tune my skills. Okay, so some of the things that we talk about here is like, the goals, your career goals is like aspiring software engineer. You have a specific interest that you might have, and maybe you don't, that's okay. But if you do have like a specific area of interest, definitely mention that. This talks about like a project that Sammy worked on over the summer, but also in the midst of that, they were also working a very fast-paced retail job. And of course, a retail job may not sound like it has a lot to do with like a software engineering company, but it's a great way to let recruiters know that you worked in a fast-paced environment. You had, you had the customer service skills. You had like you were in that kind of space. And then, of course, you're finishing it up with your objective. You're looking to find a summer internship where you can fine tune your skills and get to know the industry, like get that experiential learning, which is so important. So the other example is like for those that might be getting ready to graduate, or they're going to be graduating in June. So I'm Sammy, and I'll be graduating this June. I've been studying economics with a concentration in business management. I spent the last summer interning at Goldman Sachs, where I focused mainly on comparative financial analysis, and loved it. After I graduate, I'm hoping to find a role where I can work full-time as an investment analyst. Remember how I mentioned practice? Practice so you don't end up sounding like me. Even reading it, I was flubbing it up. But anyway, this is an example of, again, very similar, where it talks about what you're studying, what your interests are, what the concentration was. you mentioned like an internship that you had or some type of relevant experience to the industry that you're looking to work in. The focus was on, comparative financial analysis, and you loved it. So that's great. Like, you want to show that enthusiasm. I think that can sometimes go a long way. And then, after you graduate, you're kind of, again, finishing up with that objective. So with that, like with the elevator pitch, and again, we can kind of talk about it a little bit more, but does anybody have anything to add about the elevator pitch? Anything that I might have been missing out? I mean, this is one of those things that you could probably do a whole workshop on, like on putting together an elevator pitch, because it's not the easiest thing. But yeah, I'd love to hear if the panel has anything to say.
Yeah, I think I echo everything that you said, and I think something that is going to be really important when talking about your elevator pitch that gets the conversation going is, again, saying what your year is. And so that immediately kind of indicates to us if you're going to be looking for an internship or full-time, and if you're a freshman, just like kind of looking to do that networking that we've talked about, or sophomore who might be eligible for an internship as well. That's going to be really important. And then just kind of tying that back into that first tip about research. If you're really interested in a company, and I know like I'm jumping ahead for some of these questions, if you can even fine tune your elevator pitch to match the job description for that company, that also stands out a lot, or not necessarily job description, excuse me, the job title, that is showing a lot of proactiveness in terms of that research, combining your elevator pitch. And I kind of just answered the first question we have, but that's kind of what I have for the elevator pitch side of things.
That's great. Thanks, Bobby. And I'll just say this real quick. A little overlap is not a bad thing. So if we repeat ourselves, that's great, because I think it's going to be beneficial to the students. Anyway, Michael, sorry.
Yeah, let me echo that again. If you're doing, if you're researching the company, and it's an opportunity to actually, I mean, how do I say this? Point out what you can do for them, not what they can do for you, yeah. Right? Like, some of your, to be honest, right? Some of the recruiters are not doing this out of altruism, right? To give you experience. Like, what can you do for me, right? If you've researched our products, you say, I can come in and work on that thing. I see a opportunity in your products, and I want to help with that, right? That's extra credit.
That's a great point too, because this was these examples were very general. Like, I think it's a great idea actually to like customize your elevator pitch to like the firm that you're gonna, like you might have a different elevator pitch. You probably should have a different elevator pitch for each of the companies that you're gonna be talking to. Anyway, Judd, did you have anything to add?
I would just reiterate what you said, Aaron. Practice, practice, practice. The elevator pitch, the more you can do it, the more you can say it. Grab your parents, say it to them. Grab a schoolmate, say it to them. Just get comfortable with talking about, some key ideas and just selling yourself. So yeah, practice a lot.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So finally, last tip is take notes. And when I mean take notes, I'm talking about taking notes there. So have a notebook with you, or maybe like you can have your phone and like give audio notes, or some way to like remember these things, or remember certain things. And the things that I'm talking about to remember are, when you're talking to the recruiter, they might mention some important dates that you need to be mindful of when like the internship or the job, like when the deadline is. They might have specific details about things that you're going to need to include with your resume, or include like, with through the process. But also it's a great way to jot down any interesting information, because again, remember, being unique, being memorable. So if there is something that you sense is like, oh yeah, this was a great connection that I had with the recruiter, write that down. And like, because like, one of the things that you're going to do is if you're really interested in this position, you might follow up with the recruiter afterwards. And so if you can kind of reflect on something, or remind them of something, or like, talk about something, because you got to figure these recruiters are going to be talking to hundreds and hundreds of students. So if you can like maybe mention something if you are like following up with them and say, oh, I really enjoyed our conversation about blah, blah, blah. Or you told me that this was a good thing to focus on, and that really resonated with me. Or, there's different things that you can do, but just definitely take notes after each conversation that you have with that recruiter, because that can be very valuable. If you do end up following up with them. Plus, it's a great way to just kind of reflect on the experience and like think about like what they're looking for, and it helps with like bringing that in. Anybody else have anything to share about taking notes or thoughts about that? Like, do you ever see students like taking notes after you all talk with them?
to say you'll see me taking notes, probably on your resume, and maybe
Right.
it's kind of meta, but take notes on what I take notes on. Pay attention to what I'm circling. Right.
There you go. That's good. Anyone else at the bottom?
Yeah, I've definitely seen students taking notes, and it's never, red flag if anyone is or is not taking notes. But I think something that's helpful to kind of add to this is taking notes before the career fair. So, career fair is going to be very busy, overwhelming. And so just doing, again, just kind of like a quick jot down of companies that you might want to talk to beforehand, and then bringing that piece of like paper or like whatever you have with you with the names of the company you'd like to speak to will feel less overwhelming. You'll feel a lot more prepared. And again, like if you have just a little snippet of like what their industry is, if they have like an internship full-time opportunity you're interested in, it's nice to have that note with you there. So you can know like kind of a little bit more like where you want to go.
It's great advice. It's a way to be prepared. So that's excellent. Okay, great. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the actual panel discussion. So the first question that I have is, what really stands out to you when talking to students at a career fair? And we kind of talked a little, there were some things that kind of came up, but I think we can get down more into the nitty gritty of this. It's like, what are some things that really stand out when you're talking to students? And so I'll just go in the order of people that were announced. And so Bobby, you want to start us off with that?
Sure. I sound like broken record a little bit, but it really is doing that research ahead of time. I've only participated once in the UC Santa Cruz Career Fair, and it was one of the busiest fairs I've ever been to. So it's really nice when students come prepared and have researched us a little bit more. So I'm not having that same conversation over and over again, talking about, what my company does, what I does, the roles that we have. So if you come already knowing that, I can actually have a little bit more of a, for lack of a better word, genuine conversation, just actually like having a little bit more structure where we want to go, like asking you a little bit more about yourself. So, really hitting home that research side of things.
Great. How about you, Judd? What do you think?
So probably two things. The first one is enthusiasm. If you're psyched about what you're talking about, if you are, coming in curious and with questions and stuff, that's awesome. You're going to stand out to me. The other thing is on the other side, there's usually like two different types of people that will come up to me when I'm working a table. It'll be people that start talking about themselves and start really selling themselves and getting, putting their best foot forward. And then there'll be people that say, well, what can you tell me about this position, or what can you tell me about this person and stuff? And I can definitely do that. I can definitely tell you all about the lab and everything else, but I'd much rather spend the time talking about you and about who you are and what you can do. So keep that in mind. I can tell you whatever you want to know, but I'd love to hear more about you.
Great. Thanks, Judd. On to you, Mike.
Yeah, I'll say what stands out negatively is if you're not prepared and if you're not if you haven't researched the company, right? I've had people come up to me and say, so tell me about your company and what kind of jobs do you have, right? You should know that already. You can know it by just reading the poster that I put up on the table, right? So don't stand out negatively. On the other hand, if you just come up and you already know about the company and you're asking me some specific questions about what we do and you just want some clarifications on the project, right? That's enthusiasm, which I was talking about. What I want to see is that you love engineering, you love what you do, and when you come to our company, right, you're going to do it because you love it.
Great. Excellent. Okay, so this next question is, how do you define an informed question? Because like we say, ask questions, right? And we want people to ask informed questions, but what is an informed question? And I'm gonna go ahead and start with you, Judd. What is an informed question? What would you say?
Sure. Boy, let's see. I always like I consider them to be informed questions, like when someone asks me like, what is the day in the life of me look like, or someone at the lab look like, what are our daily taskings, what kind of groups or assignments can we work on, that kind of thing. If there's interest in kind of that aspect of the work and the job, I think that's a good feeler for informed question.
Great. And how about you, Mike? What would you say? an informed question would be.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just give an example. Again, it's like, researching the company and already know what you're asking. But I'll just give an example, right? I was at an all UC career fair, all 10 UC campuses, and it was text based, right? There's 300 people in our meeting room, and they're just texting us questions. And how are you going to stand out in that room, right? There was one person who was asking us questions about our products. They said, your competitor got hit by this malware bug, and they had to find some workaround. And I know the name of that workaround, and I know how it works. And what are you doing for the same problem, right? Like, wow, we hired that person.
Yeah.
And that person is awesome. And so we made the right call, right? So the more research you do into that company and their products, the better.
That's excellent. Thank you for that. Bobby, how about you?
I would definitely just agree with everything that Jen and Michael said, but I'd also say, it comes back to that preparedness side and research side. And so if you have specific questions that you found during your research, and especially around like the requirements of a job that you're applying for. So as an example for FAST, like we have certain technologies listed on our job applications. And so kind of like knowing that, or like at least knowing where software kind of side of things, and handing the resume, saying, okay, like, yeah, taking a look at my resume, I'm really interested in this position you have. I saw these are some of the requirements. Is there anything missing on my resume? Or, is there any skill sets I should be learning to better prepare myself for this? Because it's not only, a good way for me to show that it's an informed question. You kind of did your research there, but it's also going to help you feel a little bit more informed as well. So if you are missing anything and you do want to apply, then that's something that it's kind of like it's helpful for both of us to talk about. And so, matching your skill set kind of to that job description.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and Bobby just reminded me of something, right? Informed can mean several things. It's not just informed about us, but it's informed about what you're looking for, right? Like it's better to know. Part of a job interview is actually a two-way kind of negotiation. You're trying to find out if we're right for you, and we're trying to find out if you're right for us. And it's okay if that matchup is not there. So, like, be really self-aware of what you're looking for. If you want to work for a big company, right? Ask kind of company, questions about how the company operates. If you want a certain company culture, if you want to be able to rotate through jobs, if every 3 months, I'd like to do a little rotation and then make up my mind after a year, right? Like know what you're looking for.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the next question is, how important is a student's wardrobe or attire? And I'm going to start with you, Mike, because like I've had everyone else get a chance. I know you just talked, but like I wanted to give everyone a chance to start first. So, how important is it to you?
Yeah, this is somewhat a dangerous question. I don't want to lead people astray. You're talking to 3 people in t-shirts, so maybe maybe we're not the best judges. And I think this has changed after the pandemic, probably. But especially at an in-person career fair, I don't think it's necessary to wear a 3-piece suit. If you're overdressed compared to the recruiters, that's kind of a sign. But it never hurts. I'm not going to ding somebody for being overdressed. But you want to be neat and tidy. Business casual at a minimum. Don't be disheveled. Don't be, look like you just woke up and rolled into class, and probably don't wear shorts. Look professional. Look like you care about your image. So
great.
We'll see if other people have a contrarian view.
Yeah. So Judd, I'll go with you next.
Sure. So one of the lines that really stuck for me from college was, when you're writing a paper, you always want to know who your audience is when you're writing, so you can kind of tailor what you're saying to your audience. And interviewing and introducing yourself at a career fair, that's kind of the same idea. You want to know kind of who your audience is when you're meeting someone. It's not always totally apparent, but if you're going for a job at Goldman Sachs, probably break out that suit. If you're going for a job at the lab, we dress like this at the lab, so it's probably not going to be a super huge deal. But that said, you know, taking a few minutes and making sure you're nice and cleaned up and presentable before you show up at a job fair, it does indicate to me that, you know, you've taken the time to look sharp, and that this means something to you, and that's important.
Thanks. And Bobby, what about you?
I agree with everything that was said. And I also think, again, if you're dressing kind of in like your most kind of professional sense and you're feeling like confident or like you feel good that you're kind of just presenting your best self there, that's also going to, again, help that confidence side of yourself too. So I definitely don't think you should, you know, necessarily go and maybe what you'd wear to like an 8 a.m. class or like go after the gym or something like that. I don't think there is a strict dress code for everything, but you know, dressing as professional as you can, or to your professional to your comfort level, to feel confident in yourself, just to kind of also put yourself in that mindset that this is going to be your first impression. It is a professional setting, if you will, like you are there to network. You know, how it doesn't have to be a suit. If you feel most comfortable in a suit, it can be a suit. If it's just kind of polos, nice outfit, or you know, blouse or something like that, it's gonna, again, just like however comfortable you feel like in that kind of business networking setting.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I know this is kind of a dangerous question, but I mean, it's one of those things that, like, you know, I think you nailed it. Like, just being comfortable, because I think that that's really important. Is like how you're going to be able to be comfortable and be able to present yourself. And yeah, you know, you want to, you know, you want to make sure that you are presentable, and you're presenting yourself and like what you feel comfortable, and your self-expression, you know, and who you are. And I think that is probably the most important thing to stay true to. So anyway, any other question or any other comments about that? Okay, we'll move on to the next question then. So question 4 is, what do you look for on a resume? And let's go. I know you just spoke, Bobby, but like let's have you take this one away.
Sure. So it is a technical fair, at least you know what we're going for. So definitely some of those hard skills is going to be something that's pretty key for what we're looking for. I'm sure a lot of other companies are going to be looking for as well. I'll be curious what others have to say about this. I personally do like to see GPAs if it is like you're proud of that GPA, and you can always kind of like wiggle that around if it's like your major one or your general one, whichever one I guess, yeah, you're most proud of. And then also your grad date. That kind of goes back to that elevator pitch of just, if I'm looking at a resume, I have like a line of people and I want to like just kind of like check those boxes. All right, is this person looking for an internship? Is they looking for full time? Like that grad date is just a really quick indication of what I'm looking for.
Great. Okay, let's go to you, Mike. What are you looking for from a resume?
Okay,
And like,
yeah, this is
where do your eyes go to first?
time to get real, right?
Yeah.
I hate to almost like, so everybody on that who's in that line has taken the same classes, right? Everybody's getting the same degree, and so getting the degree and the classes on there, I have to say it's kind of a minimum entry card, right? You want to emphasize what makes you special and what makes you different than everybody else in that pile. You know, it's good to see. It's good to see elective classes, maybe more than the required classes, because I want to see kind of what you specialized in. But what I want to see are projects. I want to see, you know, at UCSC, the engineers do a senior capstone project. Spend a lot of time in telling me about that project and what you did on that team, right? It's a team of 5 or 6 people. What was your role on that team? Try to quantify your impact on that thing. So if you can put it into numbers, like, you know, I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example, but if I'm at a company, right, like I had this impact of this many dollars on the bottom line of the company. If you can make it quantitative, that's key. I saw a resume recently that it didn't even list classes; it just listed projects. And what I really like to see are independent projects. So if you can talk about, if you've worked on open source software, if you've done some hackathons, if you've tutored students, right? Like I want to see, again, I said this before, I want to see that you do engineering for fun. I want to see that you do it as a hobby, and that hobby is going to continue on at work. So think about what makes you different than everybody else in that stack.
Great. Setting yourself apart. Okay. All right. How about you, Judd?
I agree with Mike. That's the first thing I look for are projects and interests. Those really catch my eye, and they kind of lead the discussion. And a lot of times, if I'll look at your projects and see that you have applicable experience using a certain tool or programming a certain language, I'll start asking you about that. And typically, I'll have some job descriptions with me, and so if I see something that matches up, I'll want to say, hey, tell me about how you use youre here and how what's your experience with the reverse engineering, and kind of let the conversation go from there. One caveat I'll say is that if you do have something on your resume, make sure you are ready to back it up. If I see something on there, and I want to talk about it, the answer that's going to be rough is like, oh yeah, well, I have some basic experience, or I did that in a lab one time or something. If it's on there, be ready to tell me about it and your experience with it at length.
That's excellent advice. Yeah, I think that, yeah, like know your resume pretty well and know that you might be asked about something on there. Great. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. Excellent. And yeah, I mean, I think that this is, I mean, again, we could talk for hours about resume. It's such a key and important thing. It's like the blueprint, right? Or it's the starting point. But I think this was some really great insight. So thank you so much. Okay, so next question is, how do you feel about students following up after the fair? And I know I had mentioned that, like, take notes and like in case you do send a follow-up message. So hopefully nobody's gonna say, oh, don't follow up with me, but I'm curious of what y'all think about, like, how should a student follow up, if they should follow up. So let's start with you, Judd.
Sure. I encourage students to follow up with me. I'll have my business cards there. They'll have my work email on it, so feel free to hit me up on email. Find me on LinkedIn. That's a great way to keep in touch. I've had a lot of former interviewees reach out and just say, hey, thanks for taking the time, or what should I work on next, and that kind of thing. So definitely do take advantage of that. Sometimes it takes me a few days to respond, but if you send me a message, I'll get back to you.
Great. Bobby, how about you? What are your thoughts on following up, students following up?
Yeah, I think it's showing a lot of proactiveness. And I think it kind of, again, goes back to what Michael was talking about. Like, you're in the same classes with a lot of people. You likely have worked on a lot of the similar projects. And so let's say, there's one spot available and like two people kind of have like identical resumes, but this person sent a thank you email over and this person didn't. And so that's just kind of that one extra thing that's showing a little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit, again, of that proactiveness side of things. And, it does take recruiters some time to get back, or like other employees some time, depending on, how busy they are. But it is also just a really good way, especially earlier on in your career, if maybe it isn't the right fit this year, to keep in touch with that person for next year, to just kind of, again, have them in the back of your mind, at least have that contact information, so you can ask them those kind of same questions. What can I do to better prepare myself for, next career fair or next year, things like that.
Great. How about you, Mike? Oh, you're on mute.
That's all great advice. I would say definitely follow up, but don't overdo it. Don't email me every day. But we often come back from this fair with a stack of 200, 300 resumes, and it takes us a while to kind of grind through those. But you might actually get lost in the shuffle, right? So follow up a week later, 2 weeks later, just ask, how's it going? If you haven't heard from us, and we might just be handing that stack of resumes off to a recruiter, or entering them into the database. So follow up, especially if you have questions about the company, right? Keep on, what's they say about sales? Always be selling, right? So and yeah, Bobby's point is fantastic. Like, follow up 6 months later. If I give you some advice, something more to do, to prepare a little bit better, and you actually follow that advice, like, follow up and say, yeah, I've done this thing you suggested. Do you have any openings now? Right.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. So again, taking good notes, and yeah, you heard that. Like, you might not hear back from people right away, but that doesn't mean that they're not thinking about you, or that they're not going to get back to you. It's just, you got to understand that they're very busy. So that's my point to y'all, just to the students out there. It might take a little bit of time. All right. So next question is there anything that a student should not do? Are there any pet peeves? So Bobby, why don't I have you start off with this one?
For sure. So this almost sounds like so obvious, but it happens a lot more, and I get it. It's an overwhelming situation at career fairs, but really it's like this lack of active listening. So it is going to be very loud. There's a lot of conversations happening, but if you are having a conversation with whoever you're talking to, the representative at the company, make sure you're listening to the information that they give you and that you're retaining that. And so if I were to tell you, yeah, what fast products are, and then, we have a little bit more like discussion, but then you ask a question. So like, yeah, what actually would I be working on if I worked there, and be like, okay, well, like I mentioned kind of earlier, it's going to be this. And so it actually like really segued well to what Aaron was just saying. If you have those notes and you're jotting just those very quick things down to help you remember, it just is going to help you feel better, research more informed, but B, it's going to eliminate any of that kind of awkwardness or like just lack of professionalism when having those engaging conversations, because it is overwhelming. It can get loud, so just make sure that you're doing that active listening.
Great. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, we did see these questions in advance, and I struggled with this one a little bit. I'd say, I mean, the main thing is sort of don't waste my time, right? Like, don't come to obviously totally unprepared and and not get anything out of it. But I would say also, don't lead with salary, right? Like, it can certainly be part of the conversation, like what's the salary range in these positions and stuff, but don't lead with that. So so how much do you pay? Right, it gives the wrong impression.
That kind of goes back into the whole like what's in it for me, it's a two-way street, right? So like if you're leading with that, you can kind of
there's room for salary negotiation later, and know that salary is always negotiable,
right?
But we can do a whole thing on how to and I'm sure Bobby, as a professional recruiter, can talk about how to negotiate salary and benefits, all this stuff, when and where.
Yeah, and we offer that at Career Success as a service too, like for students for coaching, but would love to have a workshop or a panel someday on that. So y'all might be hearing from me about that coming up, but great. Okay, Judd, how about you? Any pet peeves or things students should not do?
Let's see. I've kind of struggled with this one as well. I guess the one thing I would say is, if we're after the job fair, if we're kind of emailing back and forth, or we're in communication at some point, and say you've applied for a job and you didn't get the answer you wanted to, going back to me and saying, hey, is there anyone else you could talk to for me? That's not gonna do much for you. Unfortunately, I have to kind of curb expectations and say, I'm a full-time employee at the lab. I do in recruiting as I can and as I'm available for it. But I can lead you to water, but I can't provide you. I can't give you a job or anything like that. So just kind of understand that I might like you, but I can't offer you a job personally.
Great. Okay, and then this is the last question, and I'll start with you, Mike. Any last words of advice for our listeners, for our students that are here today?
I something that Bobby said really stood out to me. Like, do it, show up and feel powerful, right? I love that. Like, dress like you have power, and do what makes you feel powerful and smart and strong, and it shows.
Great. How about you, Bobby?
I guess, we've talked about a lot about just like that preparedness. One other thing a panel said to me once, and it's not necessarily you necessarily have to follow, but I thought it was really insightful. It's don't start with your dream company at the career fair. Go to them maybe second or third, and not to say like completely bomb the first kind of company that you talk to, but it goes back to that practice side of things. Like, if you see your dream company is going to be at the career fair, probably don't start with them, because you don't want to get tongue-tied. You don't want to feel too nervous. And so if you have that practice, then you'll feel a little bit more comfortable. You'll know what the flow is a little bit more like at your dream company.
Great. And finally, how about you, Judd?
Yeah, I love that advice, Bobby. That's super important, I think. The other thing I would say would be to, when you have when you have companies in mind and you've checked out kind of about the company and the mission statement and kind of have a good idea what the company is, make sure you're researching what those positions are, and make sure, especially if you're applying for like a full-time job, make sure your resume accurately reflects your skills in answer to those positions. So, make sure your resume is tailored to be what the organization is looking for.
Great. Excellent. I'll just say this too. And I was going to say this at some point, and I don't think I did. And if I did, I'm saying it again. And like I said, overlap is okay, because it's okay to hear things more than once. And that's to, if you can, show up early to the career fair. And the reason why I say that is you're going to get the recruiters when they're fresh, because like they're going to be talking to a lot of students. So they're going to still have their voice when they talk to you, and they're going to be fresh. And it's also a way to kind of avoid the line, because it gets pretty busy. And so be prepared to kind of wait in a line. And while you're doing that, that's when you can kind of be looking at your resume, looking at the notes that you've jotted down about the employers that you're going to be talking to, talking with your fellow, like the people that are in line. I mean, again, practicing that networking, so I think it's a really good idea to come a little bit early if you can. I know that that there's classes and things like that, or there might be other things that you have to do, priorities, but if you can come early, I definitely recommend that. So anything else before we open it up to, we have a couple of questions from the audience. Any other final thoughts? Okay, so I'm going to open up to the question. So somebody had asked, like when we kind of answered this, but how do you stand out to employers? But they actually had a follow-up question that is like, if everyone does the same research, what can you do to further show you are interested? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? So again, I'll repeat the question. Like, if everyone does research, they're doing the same amount of research, what can you do to further show that you're interested in this position? Is there anything that comes to mind? Mike, I see your hand up.
Oh, I can be quick, right? Everyone won't be doing the research, so you're golden there if you remember that bit of advice. But also, right, it's also about preparation. So making sure that you have those good descriptions of your projects, good descriptions of any outside work that you've done. So it's kind of half preparation, long-term preparation, and half short-term preparation.
Right.
For me, I would say obviously, the research side of things, but honestly, already applying to one of the roles if they're open. So for FAST, our roles are open. And so if you come up to me and say, like, I submitted an application and, I'm just here to kind of chat with you about next steps, really excited about this. And again, like following it up with like the research that you've done, again, just showing a little bit more proactiveness on your side.
Okay, great. And Chad?
Yeah, and I'd say, just if you've done the research, you're ready to go. Remember that you are selling yourself too. You are trying to present yourself in the best light. So make sure that you're really focusing on, not only what you know about the company, but how you can best benefit the company if you were to be the applicant picked.
Great. Excellent. We have another question. What if you're unsure of your specific career goals? Is this a weakness? Do you look at that as a weakness?
I can start. So I personally don't at career fairs. I do think it's important to know like what you're enthusiastic about. And again, like what Michael was talking about, your hobbies and your interests. So yeah, if you come up to me and say like, I want to do like machine learning, and I'm like, well, we're software side of things, like this might not be what you want. But early on in your career, especially like freshman, sophomore, maybe even junior year, if you don't have as much industry experience, that's not necessarily a red flag for me, because I know that you're looking to learn more about different things. And obviously industry and school are very different. And so, saying things like, and I think it might have been an elevator pitch as well, going in and you want to fine tune those skills and learn more about an industry, that's your student. Like that is kind of like what I'm expecting early on in your career. So that's not a weakness on my end.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a wonderful question from Laura. I guess maybe this is sort of more life advice than career fair advice, but you absolutely do not have to know what your career goals are, and it's absolutely not a weakness. Like, most of the opportunities I've had, it's sort of half time. You sort of have to have a vague plan of where you want to go. But most of the opportunities in my life came along sort of surreptitiously or sort of on the side. So you really sort of have to recognize an opportunity, and then you have to decide at the time: am I going to grab it? Am I going to pivot? Am I going to go after it or not? Right. So if coming back to your career fairs, if you're going up to a company, you might not know if that company meets your specific goals, but pretend that it does for that moment, right? Like, go after that company with everything you've got. So if nothing else, it's just good practice. So yeah. Know that you're going to take a winding road in your career, and that job might just be temporary, but do everything you can to learn everything you can from it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would add to that, speaking personally, I've done a lot of different things in my life. I've kind of come into this field as a second or third career, I guess. So I can definitely emphasize with, not really being sure what you want to do. The best advice I could give you is just build up a skill set and be flexible and be enthusiastic. And yeah, you'll go far.
Great. So I have another question. This person asks, is it beneficial to go to a career fair that is unrelated to my major, but I have an interest in a specific company that's attending? Does anybody want to take that one?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. I get this a lot at our tables. I'll be representing the computing division within the lab, but we'll get a lot of, biology majors or a lot of, forensics postgrads and that kind of thing that'll just say, hey, I know you're not here for this, but how do I apply? How do I get noticed? It's certainly worth your time. There's not going to be a lot that I can personally do for you, but I can definitely, put you in contact with somebody that can. So, definitely stop by and chat with me and let me know, and I'll see if I can help.
Great. Anyone else? Okay. I see you went off mute. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it could be risky. It depends on the company, right? But if the company's there, then it's probably sort of related to your major in some way. So feel free to ask those recruiters, questions about the company and get some basic information.
And I'll say, I think it's beneficial just because, again, it's practicing that networking, like it might not be, this might not be an area that you want to work in, but you're getting to practice talking to recruiters and kind of learning about a job that's out there. So that would be my 2 cents. Bobby, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think for us, we are not super picky on majors. Like, we are we do look at interest, and so picking a major can be difficult, and then all of a sudden you've declared, and then you have kind of an interest somewhere else. And so I think it's important to kind of ask those questions too if you are interested in a company or an industry, but you might not necessarily have that skill set. A lot of companies might not require X degree in something, but might look for a skill set. So those are good questions to ask. But I'd say, like, again, because it might be busy, come prepared with that as well. Like, just kind of don't go up to every single company and ask that question. Like, make sure it's going to be like a company that you're interested in.
Right. Now, this is a big one. This is a big question. I noticed that we have 7 minutes left. So hopefully we can get all these questions, because we do have quite a few more questions. I'm respectful of everyone's time though. So if you have to leave, we'll try to finish this at 5:30. But anyway, so this next question is, how should we approach a recruiter for an entry-level job with no direct experience to that job? For example, looking for a UX research internship, but with no research portfolio. Any input or any advice for someone that doesn't have a lot of, that's looking for an entry-level job that just doesn't have the experience? This is a big question. And I see Bobby and Mike are off of mute. Who wants to start? I'll say Bobby. I'm looking at you're the first one on my screen. So
sounds good. So it's ironically enough something that Michael was saying earlier. So the personal projects, even if you're very early on in personal project, but you're starting to learn those specific tools or just like processes for that particular area you're looking for, that's kind of how I like to see that experience there. I honestly look at personal projects way more than I do at industry projects or academic projects as well. Because again, you're in school. I'm not expecting you to come in with X years of experience, X months of experience. If you have an internship, that's great. But it's not going to be necessarily a requirement because I know there's only so much limited time that you can have for an internship, let alone one that's going to be directly related to what you want to do. So if you can show how those skills are being utilized, like academically, personally, that you're learning in a transferable way, that is totally enough for me to consider someone.
Excellent input. I hope everybody heard that because that's really good. Mike, I saw you're off of mute too.
So two things. One, it's unlikely that you really got no experience in that, or otherwise, why would you be interested in it? So I bet you can come up with something to say about it and try to polish it up. I mean, we'll know if you're pushing it too far, but do your best to come up with something. The other thing is that, I mean, the night before a career fair is a little bit too late to be coming up with experience for something, right? So, you really do have to be preparing your whole college career for this kind of thing. So if you really are interested in that thing, make sure that you're getting experience in that. So make sure that you're doing some independent projects. Make sure, do some hackathons and just do it for fun. So preparation.
Right. Judd, do you have anything to add?
I think you guys covered it really well. I just, hammer down on outside activities, tell me about your Pi cluster that you set up, or tell me about your, whatever other thing you've done in your free time. That's always something.
Great. Okay, this next question I can answer in an interest of time. I'm just going to say if anybody opposes or has like an opposing view of this, chime in. But the next question is, I recently graduated this spring. Is it common for graduates to attend career fairs? And I'm going to say absolutely. Like, we get a lot of alumni that come to our career fairs, and you're absolutely welcome to attend. I mean, people are hired. It's not just an internship fair. It is a career fair. Any quick no's? I mean, do you all agree with that? Like, I'm seeing thumbs up and nods. And so, yes, so absolutely, please come to all of the fairs. And the last slide, I'm going to show you the upcoming fairs that we have. Okay, then another question is, if you're a first year with no prior experience on a resume, how do you make the most out of this event? I think that we just kind of pretty much covered that. Making the most out of the event, I think it's just talking to people. Making the most out of the event. Anybody else have anything other than what we just talked about to add to that?
Well, learn. Use it to learn. Use it to get some ideas of what to do for the next 3 years.
Yep. Great. Okay, and then another question is it okay to wear jeans? Any thoughts on jeans? I'm going to say this. I'm going to be wearing jeans, but what do you all think about are jeans okay?
No holes in the jeans.
Yeah, I'm cool with jeans. I want to talk to you about about what you're doing and what you've done. I'm not going to pay attention to your pants too much.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, great. So there you have it. All right. So the other question is, should I be applying online and at the career fairs, or only one or the other?
I'd say you can do both. I think every company is going to have a different application process. And so I think, again, like doing that research and seeing if an application is already open, that's fine. I can say right now we kind of sign people in to show, like, there's a separate sign in for us at the career fair. I think that's pretty common with a lot of other employers as well. So I don't think it hurts to do both. They'll, representatives will let you know what steps you need to take to have your application submitted.
Yeah. Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say that definitely do both. The lab this year, we've decided to not collect paper resumes. So we're going to have QR codes available for you to scan into to get to smart recruiters. So be prepared to, apply for the positions online and, take all the info we have and all the stuff we talk about and stuff like that and do it online.
Great. Mike, any?
Just what Bobby said, right? Every company's different. So just ask the recruiter. Yeah.
Great. Now we have one more minute, and there is one, actually I have two questions. I'm going to actually answer this other question that just came up. It just popped up. And this seems to be aimed at undergrads. This person's a PhD student looking for full-time employment after graduation. Do you have any additional advice for me? I think that you should still attend the career fair. I mean, I think there's opportunities, for PhD candidate, or for PhD people that have PhDs. And again, it's a great opportunity, again, just to network. So I don't think it would be a waste of time. And I think that there's going to be some positions that are actually going to be looking for PhD students. I know that our career fair that's coming up on, and I did switch the slide to these are the upcoming career fairs. There's also a QR code if you want to scan that for upcoming career success events. But these are the upcoming career fairs. The Silicon Valley Career and Internship Fair I know is looking at graduate student. There's definitely a graduate student population there, so that's a good fair. But yeah, I don't. Unless does somebody think otherwise? I mean, would you agree that a PhD student should absolutely attend the fair? Yeah. Okay. So there you have it. Okay.
And you'll probably go into a different pile.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
A shorter pile.
Okay. So final question. It is 5:30. Are you all? Is everyone okay with answering this last question? And if we're okay with that, if you got to go, I understand. Okay. So final question is, how long does a conversation last typically? Would you recommend moving into talking about my own skills / resume after the elevator pitch and saving questions about the company for the very end? So I guess the question is kind of, is there an order to it? How long does the conversation typically last? And then, yeah, there's like kind of an order to like how things.
That's definitely going to vary. And I think, with an elevator pitch, that's going to highlight a lot of the things that are on your resume / your skill set. And so I think that's, elevator pitch, that's kind of your first impression. That's what you'll talk about. But it is very much going to be dependent. I can't put like a finite number to it. I know for virtual career fairs and internships, like one-on-ones on Handshake are 10 minutes. And so, you could use that maybe as a reference, but otherwise I've had conversations that go longer than that. I've had ones that go shorter. I think it's going to depend on what you're looking for, if your qualifications kind of match what the company's looking for, and how many questions you have. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself or overthink that too much. I think just coming prepared and doing everything that you can to have that conversation. I don't worry too much about if you hit X amount of minutes or didn't hit X amount of minutes.
Great. Anyone else?
It depends on how long the line is, of course. But I like how we're quoting each other, right? Bobby said something earlier about active listening, right? Here's where you put that into practice. So, once you give your elevator pitch, let the recruiter kind of drive the next question, but then you sort of have to react what they're doing. But do make sure you get that chance in, hey, can I ask you some questions about the company? It always looks good.
Okay. Jed, any final thoughts about that?
Yeah, if you want to spend a little more time, feel free to reach out too. Happy to talk to you after the interview if you feel like there's something else you wanted to say that maybe didn't have time to or didn't get a chance to. That's a good opportunity to find me on LinkedIn or email me or something.
Great. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your time, and this was incredibly valuable insight. I think I'm pretty confident that the panel or that the audience really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. I hope you all enjoyed this. I can't thank you enough for joining us. Again, up here is the upcoming career fairs. You can find these things on Handshake. You can find the employers on Handshake. There's also a poll at the end. There's like some feedback on this presentation. So please do let us know how we're doing on this panel. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you all at our upcoming career fairs. So thank you.